So, what is a cruise? And it sounds ridiculous. It sounds such an easy question. But if somebody were to go ahead and literally say to you, what is a cruise? What would your answer actually be? It's quite a strange question to think of. So, a cruise is an ocean voyage on a cruise line taken for pleasure or as a holiday. Cruise ships are semi and inclusive resorts that move from port to port. Now, again, going off those certainly those larger Royal Caribbean ships that you hear about and that you may have seen videos of and may have even been able to see in person, they truly are at this point what you would call a resort on the water. That you name it, they've got it. They are huge. They've got everything you could think of. So, for travellers, they offer a chance to sample the life of different ports and include opportunities for both relaxation and excitement. Passengers can visit different places without constantly packing and unpacking. Depending on the cruise line and pricing package, the price of a cruise usually takes care of accommodation, meals, activities, entertainment, and much more. And what is a cruise ship? So, a cruise ship is like a large floating resort. On board, you can enjoy the luxury and comfort of a five-star hotel, plus choose from different activities. And most cruise ships are equipped with several restaurants, bars, casinos, swimming pools, jacuzzi spa, gyms, shops, theatre, cinema. Now, this part specifically, there's some American sides of things that would be slightly different to us. So this Paul Gauguin, I'm saying here, I think they are very Americanized. So just bear that in mind. But all of these on here, so Azamara, JTA and gold medal, Carnival, JTA and gold medal, Celebrity and Celestial, Cunard, Disney, Holland America, MSC, I'm going to miss out Margaritaville there, but NCL, Oceania, Princess, Regent, Royal, Seabourn, Silversea, Virgin. You can get every single one of those with JTA and gold medal. Margaritaville at sea. I know that we had the Margaritaville week last week, and I believe that you guys can register for those specifically separately. And you can also see on there the ones with the asterisks by it are Archer preferred. Now, again, currently that won't necessarily matter for us over here because we're using third-party operators, JTA gold medal. But as we start to get these contracts in place separately, we will also have preferred suppliers as well. That doesn't mean you have to book them or anything like that. It could be that they're giving out better commissions. It could be that they've got great incentives on, all of that sort of thing. But that is just a bit of an overview. For ourselves over here, P&O is another one that is huge. Obviously, they are British as well, so totally understand why the American side of Archer doesn't necessarily have them down there. But for us, they would be big. So that's, like I say, just a little bit of an overview there. And then cruise pricing for 2025. So your first pricing will be your lowest cabin category. So that is literally somebody who just wants the best price that they can get for a cruise, unless they specify otherwise that they want, a balcony cabin or something like that. Then your first price will be your lowest cabin category. And then the amount shown. So to be honest with you, this is going a little bit further forward with regards to if a customer's literally wanting to go ahead and book and things like that. But when you ring up and get a cost of a let's say you see a price, and it's one of these sale costs or something like that, and it's $799. Something to know is that that is obviously a per person price. They will base that on two people sharing a room, and it does always include any taxes, fees, and port charges. So the pricing show will not tend to include insurance and gratuities. So your gratuities is, again, for anybody that doesn't know, gratuities are your tips. So with a cruise, 9 times out of 10, tipping is expected. It's really the cabin crew's main source of income. Although, again, in this country, um, because it's not something that we're necessarily used to, you will find that the British cruises tend to have gratuities included. So again, P&O as an example, they're British and they they basically include the gratuities within the cost. You always have the option. I always say if somebody's gone above and beyond, by all means, you do it in a restaurant, you do it while you're abroad, your cleaner and that kind of thing. But as standard, they are included. Drinks packages, again, you'll find some that have got offers on and all of that kind of thing where you get your drinks included, which is absolutely huge. But as standard, they won't include your drinks. Any miscellaneous packages such as spa treatments and all of that sort of thing. Any specialty restaurants may have a cover fee. So, Royal Caribbean, for example, you might have 10 restaurants that are included, and then there could be another 10 restaurants that have a cover fee of maybe $20, $30. Some of their super duper restaurants could be a little bit more, maybe $50 or something like that. People who have cruised before will already know this kind of thing. Those that haven't cruised before, don't worry about telling them that there's extra money to spend. As long as they know, that really won't matter. It's just things that these people like to know in advance. And finally, your excursions. So if you do have anybody who wants to get off, but would rather go on a group tour, then obviously they would pay for an excursion. If they're just getting off the ship and making their own way around and doing what they want, then obviously they wouldn't need to book an excursion. And then, as you can see at the bottom there, when in doubt, call. Simple as that. Just call them, ask the question. That is what these guys are for. And then just an idea of a cruise quote here. So this one is specifically with Carnival. But you can see there it's got your dates and the title of the cruise. So 7-day inside passage and glacier from Seattle. This one specifically is going the 22nd to the 29th of May. You've got the Carnival Luminosa. It tells you right there that that is on a balcony cabin. So you can see that in black and white. It will break down the itinerary for you. So where you go in, as you can see there, day 2 is your day at sea. So you are literally sailing that day, which means that your customers can take advantage of anything that's going on the ship. And obviously the other ports that is going to as well. And then your fare information. So you can see here the total of this cruise. As I say, this is in dollars. This is the Jose's put this together. So these are in dollars, but $3,118. And then you can also see underneath exactly what is included. So it's the cruise fare itself. And then, as we were saying earlier, any fees and expenses, port taxes, things like that. So it tells you exactly on there the breakdown as well. Not that your customer will usually want to know or need to know the breakdown. They'll only be interested in the total cost. But for us guys, certainly where you don't tend to earn commission on your fees and your port taxes, it's worth us knowing and just being able to see the breakdown. This cruise specifically down at the bottom there where it says perks has got $50 onboard credit. Onboard credit is essentially a little bit of spending money that cruise lines will throw in. You can use those towards drinks. You can use it towards specialty restaurants, spa packages, the casino, anything like that. You can effectively deduct your onboard credit off your bill. And then are cruise lines all inclusive? So, as a standard rule, the answer once upon a time would have always just been no, they're not. However, of late, people are getting onto the fact that more people want to be able to just pay that bit more prior and then know that everything's taken care of whilst they are on board in this case. So, all inclusive cruise lines, Regent Seven Seas, Silver Seas. Now, these guys have put Cunard down, but with ourselves over here, Cunard is not all inclusive. So, for anybody who's making notes or anything like that, please make sure that you don't write Cunard down. You can get drinks packages, wine packages, and things like that. P&O is another one. You can get drinks packages, you can get wine packages, you can get soft drink packages, so that you can add those on, but as standard, they aren't included. Somebody who isn't on there is NCL. Now, they are all inclusive. Again, that could be that it differs with America, but for ourselves here, they are all inclusive. And then semi all inclusive cruise lines, as you can see the asterisks there with specialty restaurants. Now, again, I don't want to confuse anybody, but there's so many now that you can add packages onto that I'm kind of going to ignore where it says semi all inclusive. So, Princess, you can add a package. Royal Caribbean, you can also add a package. This is prior to departure as well. And literally, obviously, you're going to pay more for them. Of course, you are. You know, somebody's cruise cost is going to go from 3,000 to 4,000, but they are paying for everything in advance. MSC, you can also get packages with drinks and specialty restaurants and things included as well. The other thing to know is that you don't need to store all of this information. So you'll see moving forward as we go along, and as I say, these issues with some contracts that I'm having ironed out. MSC, once I'm able to register you all, you'll see on there that when you're getting a price, just sort of go back up here. When you're getting a price, you've got so Carnival Luminosa, and then with MSC, they've got a fantasy package and a Bell package, and I think it's called an Aurora package. It will tell you on every single quote what you are getting within that package. Is it just standard, your food, etc.? Is it soft drinks and things as well? Or is it your full, all inclusive, all singing, all dancing, drinks, specialty restaurants, etc.? You'll see it all. You are not expected to remember all of this. So when it does come to the drinks packages, your non-alcoholic drinks packages tend to include coffee, teas, juices, soda, your fizzy drinks, your pops, your milk, your water. And then in your wine and spirits packages would be exactly the same as above, plus beer, wine, your shorts, your specialities. And then you can see at the bottom there may still be a charge for high-end liquors. So you weirdly may seem to find that on some cruise lines, Red Bull isn't included, believe it or not, but it tends to be your champagnes and your sort of top shelf, if you like, that aren't included. But for those who are drinkers, I always remember a specific customer of mine, and he only drank a specific whiskey. I wouldn't say it was completely top shelf, but it certainly wasn't their house whiskey, shall we say. But for him, by adding on a drinks package, obviously was pleasing his wife. She was drinking whatever she was drinking. But it also meant that he could have his specific whiskey and he was only paying an extra £1.20 for it. So because it's almost like you get X amount of pounds towards a drink, and then if it's more, you sort of top it up. So for him, with his specific whiskey, that was ideal because he was still only paying an extra £1.20 for it with his drinks package. If he'd have just had the standard one, he wouldn't have paid anything. And then, of course, going back to last week, obviously anything travel related is all very much going to go in a circle. Qualify. So, all of those questions that we were talking about last week on the training, why are your customers going on the cruise? Have they ever cruised before? Have they done any research as to a cruise line that they may fancy, or the complete opposite, a cruise line that they may not fancy? Have they done one before? Who was that with? Explain any pre and post nights. Pre and post nights, for anybody who doesn't know, is literally as it sounds, where you can add hotel nights on prior or after the cruise. For us over here, we will find that any cruises that travel from, let's say, Miami, for example, we will automatically have one night included because of the time, the flight time, and all of that sort of thing. You will always fly out the day before you pick the cruise ship up, stay overnight, usually at like the Hilton Miami or something like that, and then go and join the cruise the next day. Again, all of these specialists are on hand to go through all of that. And when they are giving you your price, they will absolutely break everything down and they'll tell you where you're staying if it's included. You can always ask if a customer wants that adding on before or after, and that's exactly what that is. Your air and your transfer portion. So again, that's going back to your flights and your transfers from either the airport directly to the ship, or if you have got a pre or post night, obviously your transfer would be to the hotel, and then the next day picking you up from the hotel and to the ship, and vice versa. Ask your customer if they're wanting to do any excursions, if they're planning on doing any excursions. What is it they're wanting to do while they're away? You may have some people, let's say Rome, for example. I know the port of Civitavecchia, which is the port for Rome, is about 2 hours away from Rome itself. Now, you are going to have a very, very 50-50 split of those who feel comfortable of getting off a ship in the middle of Italy, jumping on a train, making their own way into Rome, doing whatever they want to do, and then obviously making their way back for whatever time they need to be back. On the flip side of that, you are going to have many people who would rather just have it fully taken care of. They get off that ship, they know they're getting on a bus, they're being taken around Rome, doing whatever it is the excursion does, and then they're also fetching them back. So make sure you explain those kind of differences and let the customer make up their own mind. And then, are there any special circumstances or special needs? So, if you do have a customer who requires a disabled cabin, then straight off, no matter whether or not you can book on the website, 9 times out of 10, you will need to ring and find out if they have a disabled cabin available. Something, and also they do need to be booked quite far in advance. Unfortunately, it's quite a big flaw within the cruising system. As large as cruising has got, they don't seem to have grown the number of disabled cabins necessarily with that. The other thing to bear in mind with special needs and what have you, is if you have a customer who, for example, may have a mobility scooter or something like that just to help them out with distances and all that sort of thing, but says that they don't need a disabled cabin, you still also need to ring up and check if that's allowed. So I personally have just had to do this for my nan. Now, she doesn't need a disabled cabin, and her point was, I'd rather somebody who actually needs a disabled cabin be able to have it. But P&O's policy is, if you are taking some sort of aid like a mobility scooter, then because they won't allow it out in the middle of the halls and what have you, you have to have a disabled cabin. So again, just goes back to a few slides ago. If in doubt, give them a call and just find out the answer. And then obviously passports, make sure they're in date. We touched on this briefly, but you'd be surprised how a standard Caribbean cruise, for some places, you just need those 3 months. But then all of a sudden, you might touch into one where you need 6 months, or you may touch into a port where you need a visa. If you're not double checking that for your customer, that could unfortunately go horribly wrong. So just ensure passports are in date, all of that kind of thing. And again, relating to last week, ask that question: do you want to invite anybody else? Because you could then all of a sudden grow your two people into effectively a group booking. And of course, the more cabins that you book, the more commissions you've got. And then what type of cabin do your clients want? Now, again, you can see on the left-hand side, it says qualify, qualify, qualify. So this really is something that you need to be asking at the beginning, of your initial inquiry stage. So your types of cabin: interior. And again, for anybody that doesn't know, top left here would be a standard interior cabin. As you can see, there's no window or anything like that. You'll usually find, you can just sort of see there, you'll usually find it's a mirror, or it's a curtain with nothing behind it, where a window would maybe usually be. And then your ocean view just here on the right hand side. And as you can see there, literally, as it states, ocean view, you've got your window. And then here we've got balcony. And again, you can see it there. Once those doors are open, you've got your own private balcony that you can sit out on. Certainly if you're sailing and things, you can watch the sunsets, watch the sunrises if you're up early enough. And you can just sit out there at your own leisure. And then what they've put here, I think that this is probably a mini suite looking at this, which tend to have maybe a slightly larger balcony area, a separate sitting area, as you can see. As I say, with some of these, you've then got grand suites and duplex suites, and you name it. There's some that have got grand pianos and all sorts going on in there. But as a standard rule, interior, ocean view, balcony, and junior suite, mini suite. They'll have variations on the technical words, but they're all there and thereabouts. And again, with ourselves here in the UK, the dining question, you'll find if you're booking a cruise, doesn't actually come till later. So this is a really good slide to have, although you may be questioning exactly what it means. It's a good slide to have because you wouldn't come across this until you were booking. And then once you're booking, you realize you've no idea what time your customers want to actually sit down at. So it's really good to take a mental note of this, about what time they would like to dine. So traditional cruisers, old school cruisers, those that have done it for 20 years plus, you'll tend to find like to choose a time. And again, down here it says 5, 6, 7. Some of the differences between the US and the UK are amazing. But you will tend to find it's usually like a 6 and an 8 o'clock dining time if your customer wants to choose one. And as I say, although you will get some people who very much want to eat at 6, want to eat at 8, a lot of the time it is those traditional many time cruisers. For the rest, and again, this has only been around for a few years really, there's now the introduction of anytime dining. So your buffet restaurant, you are free to go when you want. If for whatever reason they are too full, they'll usually just give you one of those little black buzzer things to carry around and, go and get a drink from a bar or something like that. And just wait. It's never a silly wait. It's not like walking to a restaurant in London and them telling you, well, I could sit you down in 2 hours time. Nothing like that. But it does just give you that bit more of a choice, especially I think with maybe children and things like that as well. You never know when they're going to be hungry. I feel like routine goes a little bit out of the window when it comes to families and things being away, time differences and what have you. So that's always a good option for families as well. And then I am actually just going to bypass this only because, as you can see, this is America. This is their major ports and cruise terminals. I could touch into it slightly. You will find for people traveling from here, we will do longer cruises if they're going from America. The guys in America have got it so good with some of their cruise lines where they can jump on a ship for 2, 3, 4 nights. So for that reason, there's a lot of ports. But for ourselves, we do tend to use the main ones, which would be Port Canaveral, Miami, New York. Yes, we do have a few that go out of Texas, but again, you do tend to find they are your shorter ones. And it's just such a long flight for us from over here that it's rare that you'll get someone who's doing that just for a cruise. If you were doing a America itinerary as a holiday and wanted to pop a cruise in there, then absolutely fine. Some of these, as I say, will be 2, 3, 4 nights. But as I say, you're not going to find many people who are going to do a 10, 11, 12 hour flight for just a 3 night cruise. Oh, I'll just go back to that. For us, your main port would be Southampton. Fred Olsen do a few from Liverpool for anybody who would like to go from up north. But again, just as a general ruling, Southampton is really going to be your main one. And again, this doesn't really necessarily apply to ourselves because the Caribbean cruises that we have on sale, you will really find are in the winter, which is the best time to go to somewhere like the Caribbean. So where they've put hurricane season down there, it isn't necessarily something that we would come into interaction with really. So slightly need to touch on it, but nothing major. And then with regards to getting your quote for the cruise, as I say, this has been put together for America, so it's slightly different for ourselves. So at the moment, as I've said, we're using JTA and we're using Gold Medal. You do need to call them for quotes. It's not currently bookable online, although we do know for anybody who's seen it that this is coming with JTA quite soon, from what I can gather. They do also have a tool on JTA's website. Although obviously it's not a bookable tool, it's a very good, handy, useful tool where you could put in a month of the year and you could put in an area that maybe your customer wants to go to, and it will bring you up what cruises go there. So it's kind of doing half of the work for you, should you or your customer not really know a specific cruise line that they want. So, as it says there, number 2, call the cruise line and ask for a cruise quote. At the moment, with JTA and Gold Medal, that's what we will be doing. Although, as I say, going forward, the more contracts that we've got in place, and once it doesn't take me 6 months to register everybody, we will obviously have the direct contracts where you'll be able to go on MSC directly, P&O, Cunard, Princess, etc., and get them online as well. And your final quote. So, where you can, ensure that you're including the following. So, obviously, the total price, your cabin price, taxes, fees, port charges. Again, you'll get that anyway. So, this isn't something that you have to go out of your way and find. Where you can, include the gratuities. Because again, this is just an extra cost that some people may not want, they may also not know about. So if you can include the gratuities, tell them you've included the gratuities and explain that does mean that you won't need to go out of your way to tip the staff on board because it's already included within the price. And obviously, make sure you are telling them that drinks packages, excursions, spa packages, etc., aren't included, but that they can be should they wish. Stuff like that you wouldn't include and just assume that they want it, of course. And then again, really exactly what we've said. Depend on how you book it, will depend on how your customers purchase it. So it could be the direct websites, it could be over the phone. Then obviously you're filling your authorization form, your booking and your commission form. And as it says there, be careful, do not take cash. We've had this raised a couple of times on previous trainings. And be careful of gift cards. But again, that isn't really something that we do over here. So that's really not anything that anybody needs to know about currently. Um, this is your standard customer care email and US telephone numbers. But obviously, we're a little bit different over here because most things just come through to me. So I won't bother with that. And we don't need to go through anything COVID wise. US passports, we certainly don't need. And then fraud detection alert. Um, this again is more so for the American side of things because they've had some issues with specific things, but really just in general, not even cruise related. Please just be aware, just be alert that unfortunately there are people who do bad things, and a very easy way of, using somebody's card is unfortunately travel. So if you do have people who want to go so quickly, and it will just seem a little bit off, why are people ringing you at 8 o'clock at night and wanting to travel on a 10 o'clock the next morning flight, all of that sort of thing. Please just bear it in mind. You do not have to make a booking. Okay. Just straight away, that's the first thing to say. If you do not feel comfortable and something is telling you that something is off, by all means, if you need to say to that customer, let me ring you, and you need to ring me in between, please go ahead and do that. Because obviously, ultimately, we don't want anything to come back on yourselves. And again, for us, it's not necessarily a huge cruise specific